What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Thunder Sports Pod with JT and
The stash, baby. We back at it again.
yes, sir. And we've got a special guest, NFL with JP, with us, everyone.
What's up, fellas? Appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. It's going to be a blast. So, starting off, we're going to dive into it. Do you guys buy into the hype with Caleb Williams?
Absolutely.
Mm,
To me, I have little doubt in my mind that Caleb
mhm,
Williams is going to be anything but a top five quarterback in the NFL. He's done it all. As soon as he stepped on the field at Oklahoma, he showed it. Took it to USC. He showed everything on film that you need to see, and his production is as good as it gets, really. So I've seen him make every throw, and I've seen him do it consistently. He's had
mhm,
bad games here and there. Everyone has
yeah.
bad games, and
Mhm.
to me, I think he's a pretty good comp for him is Aaron Rodgers for me.
I would agree with that full-heartedly. I mean, a lot of people have the Mahomes comparison, and I think I like the Aaron Rodgers comparison a little better, in my opinion. But what's your thoughts on it, Stash? What do you think about the
So,
hype?
so the hype's been there since he won the Heisman. I watched some game film from this year, and I mean, he's got a golden arm. He's got a great arm. He's very athletic. He's got a quick release. I've noticed on a lot of it, like a lot of his quick passes. His IQ is there. He may have to develop a little bit, but I think he can live up to this hype. Um, I will say he played three top 20 defenses last year, and he lost all of them.
Hmm.
So I did look into that. Like they lost to Notre Dame, they lost to Utah, and they lost to Oregon. All three of them were top 20 defenses. Against Utah, he had zero picks, but he also had zero touchdowns. Oregon, he had one touchdown, but he did throw for almost 300 yards. And Notre Dame, he was one touchdown, and like he said, you can have bad games. I know he had three interceptions against Notre Dame, but he's got great mobility too. He can throw on the run. He can throw a 65 yarder, very very accurate. So I think he may have to like. I don't know if he'll be straight out of the gate, but I think after about a year in, I think could really see him developing well under the Bears.
Hmm. I mean, they've got talent around Chicago to equip him. I mean, coming out of college, you can't ask for a better situation for a rookie quarterback with that talent. And like you said, I mean, he's going to have a couple of bad games. The Notre Dame game, excuse me, was not very pretty at all. Three interceptions, but he doesn't turn the ball over at a high clip. I mean, his highest interception year was 2022, and then this past season had five interceptions on the year. So he protects the football at a pretty good rate. And like you guys mentioned, his elite arm is golden, and he just makes these tight window throws that hardly anybody can make. But that's our opinions, everybody, on the Caleb Williams hype. We'll go into the next topic at hand, everybody. So, will there be any surprising trade ups in this year's NFL draft inside the top 10?
Yeah, that is a good question. And outside of the Vikings, I think the Vikings trade up would be expected after they got that second first round pick.
Mm,
Four picks that I'm looking at are numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6. I think those are the most likely to get dealt. The Pats at number 3 definitely should. That roster is devoid of talent. The Cardinals at 4, I think would be maybe less likely to. Even though I certainly wouldn't mind it if I were a Cardinals fan. They could just use Marvin Harrison. It's pretty simple. You shouldn't really overthink that. And I wouldn't fault them if they did take him at 4. Then
yeah.
you get to 5 and 6, where you get the Chargers, who are kind of undergoing this big transition. They got Jim Harbaugh coming in. The roster's looking bad, and I kind of have a hard time seeing them moving back at 5, just because with Harbaugh coming in, they play in LA. I think they would look to make sort of a big swing here at 5 rather than trade back and be boring and do what they really should do and maybe take a tackle and get another piece.
Mm.
But at 5, I really think they should just take Joe Alt. and just move on. It's pretty clear cut to me. And then 6, I think the Giants could definitely move back. They also are a team that's really struggled, but also the same thing as the Cardinals at number 4 there. The biggest need is wide receiver, and Malik Neighbors would really do it for you at number 6. So the draft just kind of lines up to a lot of teams' needs in the top 10, whereas I don't see a team really looking to trade back except for the Pats there at 3.
Yeah. I like it. Those are some great picks, and it'll be yet to be determined, but we'll have to wait and find out. But Stash, what is your thoughts on this?
I actually really liked it. So like he talked about, was the Vikings is pretty much the obvious one that we've all heard about. Like Vikings trading the 2 picks they got in the first round, the one they acquired from the Texans, and that's very true. I love Joe Alt to the Chargers. I love that pick because I think you could definitely do like a wide receiver, but man, just fix the O-line for Herbert, in my opinion. Get that set first. I like that. Trades, the Cardinals, Patriots, I could see. And the one that I've also heard a lot of talks about is Chicago. Chicago's talking about trading the 9th pick away to somebody. Like they're breaking up into teams for it, but that was another team that I've heard like rumors of trading.
For sure. I mean, you guys mentioned all the possible ones that could be trading out of the top 10, but some teams that I think could possibly trade inside of the top 10. I mean, even if they want to leapfrog Minnesota, hypothetically, if the Vikings trade up in the top 4 or 5, the Raiders, or especially the Denver Broncos, in my opinion, trying to get their future quarterback because they've got Jared Stidham. I don't think Broncos fans would love that to start the year with him, although he could be all right for a couple of games, but we'll have to wait and see. Denver Broncos don't have a lot of draft capital to expand upon to move up and acquire a top pick, but I think if the price is right, they could possibly make a move to make, a top 10 push.
Yeah, they could do it. I think the Broncos are just in such a bad position all the way around. Like you said, they don't have the capital, and then to move up, they would be dipping into. I don't know where they're going to get these picks from. They're still paying off Russell Wilson debt. I mean, just talk about sinking a franchise with one trade right there. Gosh, it's bad. It's a bad position. They could just sit there and take Nix, or if McCarthy falls, or Penix, and just I don't see it getting any better for them anytime soon.
I don't either. And especially if they swing this again by trading up, that sets their franchise back so many years. Like, I mean, the Russell Wilson trade, like you mentioned, that was historically bad, and it's just going to continue to get worse if they do to try that. But
so
we'll go ahead and do what now?
I was going to say I think the Broncos trade into the second round because they don't have a second round pick this year, so I think they're trading in the second round to get Knicks. That's what my thought is.
We could see that.
Yeah, they should just move down and accumulate more picks. I think that's just the way out. They got to move down as much as possible.
For sure. And Bo Nix, I believe, is 24 years old, so he's not a young quarterback at all. And if you swing on a quarterback by trading up, like we mentioned, to miss, I mean, on one of these young stud guys, it'd be safer to take Nix or Penix with your own pick instead of trying to trade up. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next topic, everybody. Rank this year's quarterback class 1 through 5.
All right. I'll just start by saying I think it's Caleb and Drake May. And those are the only 2 guys I want. I think it's those 2 guys and everybody else. I'm hoping maybe one of you guys makes a case for one of these guys to solidify a number 3. But past that, the next 4 guys, Penix, Daniels, Nix, and McCarthy, I've got Penix as my number 3. And I kind of struggle with it myself because I think Daniels is going to be a bit of a mess in the pros. I think Penix has the best arm of them, and he produced pretty well in college. He had a long college career. He's obviously he's an old prospect and has a lot of injury history as well. So there's a lot going against him already. but I do like him the most because I think he has arguably the highest floor of these guys. So I'll expand on some of these picks as we get through them. So I got Daniels at number 4. Jane Daniels could go as high as number 2. I don't think he'll go to. I expect the Commanders to take May, and so number 3 is I don't think it would be a good choice to take him at number 3 for a lot of these teams. Similar thing with Penix. Daniels is an old prospect. Didn't play well early in his career. Was pretty messy at ASU. And if I could give him a comp, it's like tall and skinny Russell Wilson. He does throw a great deep ball, but in the intermediate, he doesn't throw over the middle. He doesn't test tight windows, and he doesn't really look to extend plays and use his arm. He just bails out. And at this point in his career, you need to be more polished as a 24-year-old quarterback. That's what worries me, is if he's done developing and he needs to do a lot more, that worries me.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I got him at 4. I don't, his rushing ability should keep him in play and give him a little bit of an extension on his career, kind of like Justin Fields. Fields didn't have his legs, he would have been a goner even earlier. So, and then at 5, I got Bo Nix. Similarities with Daniels too. Old prospect, was very bad at Auburn. Goes to Oregon and has, improves by a good margin. Bo Nix was a Heisman candidate this year. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, he was.
Okay. Yeah, and same thing. Nix throws. Doesn't have the greatest arm, but the production was outstanding this year. But in general, same thing with Nix, is he still doesn't look that polished at his age. So I wouldn't take him. I wouldn't take him first round, and maybe not even the second. Just because McCarthy, I know we're doing top 5. I'll throw McCarthy in because those are kind of the big 6 here. If you're shooting for upside, I'd probably take McCarthy number 3. But I generally shoot for what I am most confident in what's going to happen. And I don't trust McCarthy enough to do that. He does have some good things on his side, and that's his age. He's still a young prospect and can still develop. Played in the pro-style offense at Michigan, but the whole thing with him not needing to do a lot, it also means that he didn't show that he can do it. And if you're going to take a quarterback to be the future of your franchise, you need to see him do it. And without that, I simply can't. I simply can't do it.
I respect that list, and very good in-depth analysis there. Stash's list, I know, is probably going to be a little bit different than yours. So, do you care to expand on your list 1 through 5?
Mine? Okay, I'm going Williams at number 1 because Williams is going to go number 1. He's going to be the number 1 quarterback taken off the board. No doubt in my mind at all. Caleb Williams is going to the Bears. I don't see in any form or fashion he doesn't. I think Jaden Daniels has more upside than Drake May. Drake May to me is I think he's got all the talent in the world, but I just don't know if I see him reaching his talent that he's supposed to have. Drake May is to me he's supposed to be a Josh Allen-esque player, and I don't know if he's going to be. I just don't know if he'll be able to transition into the game at the pro level to what he was in college. Maybe I do have a personal issue with QBs from UNC. Maybe that's it. Mitch Trubisky. I can't get over that. For a long time, Oregon was the same way for me until Herbert. But yeah, I would take Daniels at 2. I would take May at 3. And I've been a big hype guy for JJ McCarthy, but you have a very valid point. He didn't have to do a whole lot on that Michigan team. They had the number 1 defense. They had 2 really good wide receivers, and Blake Corum's an awesome running back. So he didn't have to do a whole lot there. I think he's going to go 4. He'll be the 4th quarterback off the board. And then I would probably say at 5, probably Michael Penix. Bo Nix, I'm not sure about. He's the guy that I have last of the big 6. Would be him. Would be Bo Nix. So I would take Michael Penix at 5.
I I like both of y'all's list. Quite the difference. Made some good points. So for my list, 1 through 5, or technically 1 through 6, if we're gonna include that sixth big guy. Number one, Caleb Williams. He's the general consensus number one quarterback in this year's class. Great arm, decision making is there. And number two, it was originally Jaden Daniels, but I did my scouting of Drake May and Jaden Daniels, and I believe Drake May is the better prospect. He does have some technical things to fix with his footwork that kind of scares me a little bit, a red flag, but overall, like you mentioned, at ASU, Jaden Daniels was not a good quarterback in that system, and it begs to question how much talent really helped Jaden Daniels in LSU, because he was surrounded with a lot of elite wide receiver help. So that made his life a lot easier, and he definitely had a great year at LSU, but that's my reasoning for putting him at 3 and Drake May at 2. Number 4, I've got Michael Penix Jr. He is this year's best deep ball thrower with accuracy. Joe Milton's got that cannon, but he can't put it anywhere in the numbers. So Michael Penix Jr., the injury history concerns me a little bit, but the age more than anything really just puts me in a position where I wouldn't want to take him anywhere in the top 10. He'll probably be a back end round 1 guy, depending on which teams are left with their quarterback situation. We'll have to wait and see. But his poise in the pocket, man, is incredible. I love Penix's poise, and he does not get just derailed by any sort of pressure. So I love that about Penix, excuse me. And number 5, I would put JJ McCarthy. Like you guys mentioned, I mean, the unknown about JJ McCarthy. We don't know the ability of him because he wasn't asked to do a lot at Michigan. That can go either good or bad. So a lot of teams are banking on him to be coached up in the pros, running a pro system like you mentioned at Michigan. But the downside of that is also you don't have a ton of film on this kid, so you're banking on a lot of what ifs. So that ultimately is my reasoning at putting him at 5. Bo Nix at 6. I like the upside of McCarthy over Bo Nix, so I put Nix at 6.
Yeah, definitely. I can respect that. I think one thing I want to say about all these guys sort of at the back of this top 6 is they all need protection. Penix doesn't play well under pressure. Neither does Nix. McCarthy, we haven't really seen the guy even being under pressure. He had such an elite O-line.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels struggles a bit under pressure, bailing out. May didn't have a lot around him, and I would love to see him with better protection too. And the thing is that these guys that are getting drafted potentially in the 1st or early 2nd, they probably aren't going to go to a place with a great O-line. If the Pats take one of these guys at number 3, I think any one of these guys that goes to the Pats is going to get absolutely cooked in their first 2 seasons. They're going to run this guy out of town. It's going to be the Justin Fields experience. They
really will be.
They're not going to help this guy at all. So I'm really worried for all these guys that get drafted. And that's part of the reason I don't have faith in them.
And they have such high expectations for these top rookies and prospects coming out the gate, but you've got to realize the situations these kids are being put in. And like you mentioned, if anyone goes to the Patriots, you got to pray for them boys because their O-line is atrocious, and they've got to definitely build around their quarterback situation. But
I do got a question.
Yeah.
Out of all these 5 QBs, who do you think, or 6, I guess 6 since we've been doing top 6.
Yeah.
Which one would you guys put? Like, who do you think is going to have the best career in college? Like, who has the best shot at having the best career?
Out of everybody?
Yeah, out of like the top 6 QBs we talked about.
I got to go with Caleb, even though I feel just as good about May. I really like what they got going in Chicago for Caleb.
I would agree with that. I think Caleb Williams is my vote unless May goes to a team with high upside like the Minnesota Vikings, because their offensive talent is second to none. But if Drake May goes to the Commanders or a team that doesn't have a lot of talent, I would say Caleb Williams. So it's between those two for me.
I'm going with Caleb too because like I said, we've all like pretty much he's going to the Bears. They've built a good team. This is gonna be a great opportunity. If he can't get it done with this offense, I just don't know because like you have a really good offense and a good defense.
What do you think the Bears will do with their second first-round pick? Which position do you think they should go after?
I think they're going edge personally.
Yeah. If they can get Dallas Turner, I think that'd be a great pick for him. Jared Verse, similarly.
Oh,
and then, I mean, if Odunze is there at 9, can't blame him for going there as well. Keenan Allen's getting up there in age. So the Bears are in such a great spot. I think they'll find one of those guys falls to them. I think Verse will definitely be there. But if the Bears get Turner, that's where I get really scared about this team's future as a Green Bay fan here.
Oh.
So this draft is scaring me a little bit. If the worst thing that can happen on that Thursday is Drake May going to the Vikings. That's the worst possible thing. We already know Caleb's going to the Bears, and it's a shame they're going to find their guy. But if May goes to the Vikings, this division's going to be crazy. And I think the Vikings would win a Super Bowl if they get Drake.
I like that take for sure. I mean, they're off. I think Drake May would sit the year one, though. I think Sam Darnold would probably be the best bet for that team because Drake May, like I mentioned, he does have a lot of footwork issues, but nothing extremely major that can't fix with a good quarterback coach. And did you guys know Josh McCown is his high school football coach? And the Vikings just hired him as their quarterback coach.
I did not. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
So we'll have to wait and see. The NFC North is going to be very, very competitive, especially if the Vikings get May. But
I gotta ask though, who do you want in the draft for your Green Bay Packers?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm kind of struggling with the number one guy that I'd prefer. I would almost prefer a trade back. At that spot, it'll probably be an interior O lineman. I would really love if they replaced Josh Myers at center with Jackson Powers Johnson.
Ooh.
I think he's an elite center, and Myers is one of the worst starters we've got, and Jackson Powers Johnson's a stud, absolute beast.
For sure. I mean, Stash has been advocating for him the past couple of weeks, and he is a great center. So, I mean, he would make a transition seamlessly to the pros.
I've been saying, how long have I been saying Jordan Love will be a Hall of Fame quarterback? Just wait. He will be a Hall of Fame quarterback. Guaranteed.
I love it. I love it, man.
And the trend continues. All right, we'll go ahead and move on, everybody. So, do you guys believe that there'll be any round one running backs selected in this year's class?
No, I do not. I wouldn't even say. I think round 2, I'd be surprised to see maybe 3 go off the board. I think maybe 2 of a shot.
Mm-hmm. I could see that possibly. What's your thoughts on it, Stash?
No, not round 1. I think the first running back would be taken probably halfway through the second. That's my opinion. That's where I think I see a running back go. I'm trying to think of even. Maybe Dallas needs one. Maybe in the second round, Dallas picks one up.
Yeah. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes, but hear me out. So the Cowboys have yet to address their running back depleted room, and I think they get a little greedy here, picking a first-round running back. Braylon Allen, I think they just fall in love with this dude's physique and hard running style, kind of similar to Derrick Henry. But they could get a guy in round 2, possibly round 3 if they really wanted to. So they definitely got some other holes they've got to address earlier, but it's a possibility, so I'll say yes. They draft Braylon Allen in round 1.
Spicy.
I could be completely wrong. We'll have to wait and find out. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next subject at hand. Can CeeDee Lamb duplicate last year's production, in your opinion?
I think he can, yeah. Pretty close. I forget his final counting stats, but I see no reason why he can't do it again. They've added no significant competition. It'll be Dak again. The O-line should be relatively the same. They lost Tyron Smith to the Jets.
Mm.
So that O-line has to stay together, but CeeDee's a premier player. I mean, top 3 wide receiver. You can make a lot of arguments at the top, but I think everyone can say that CeeDee's elite. So I think, he's just a lock, pretty much a lock to be at least within 150 yards of last year's numbers.
Oh, for sure. 100%. What do you think about a stash? What's your opinions towards it?
As long as Dak stays playing like he did this year, because Dak had a really good year this year. Like one of my biggest complaints with Dak was his interceptions. He got them down. I had less complaints with Dak. I think as long as Dak plays consistently, CD will do what he did last year, if not better. Because he started off with a rough last season. Like halfway through the season, he was not looking that great. And then you traded me to him in fantasy, and he went bonkers after that.
I did indeed. That was a mistake trading CeeDee. But yeah, my opinion towards CeeDee Lamb, I think, like you guys mentioned, it's definitely possible if Dak Prescott can stay healthy. I mean, the sky's the limit for CeeDee Lamb because last year he led the league in receptions, 135 with 1,749 yards, which was second, and third in touchdowns, which was 12. So he's top 3 in every major stat from a wide receiver. I think he can get close to duplicating that. I mean, the Cowboys don't have a very strong running back room until we'll see after the draft if they address that. But yeah, CeeDee Lamb is definitely an elite wide receiver in this league, so he's going to get his. But moving on, what are your guys' thoughts on Kirk Cousins to ATL, the Dirty Birds of Atlanta?
Yes. Finally, the Falcons get a QB, albeit one who's not going to probably be around too much longer.
Mm-hmm.
You got to love it for the weapons. They've invested so much. Top 10 picks, London, Pitts, and Bijan. So fantasy football fans rejoice, myself included. And the thing with Cousins, though, coming off this Achilles is I don't think it'll be as clean as people want it to be coming out of the gates. I don't know how long that's going to last, whether that's half a season, full year 1. But Kirk is not a guy. I mean, when Kirk tore his Achilles, I was kind of surprised. I don't think he even needed him, really. He's always just been kind of a statue back there. Doesn't have a whole lot of mobility. So his game doesn't really rely on his Achilles like Lamar Jackson's would. So if there's a guy who's going to tear his Achilles, it's probably Kirk Cousins and probably be okay. But I do have some fear and uncertainty about whether or not he'll be able to propel these guys to their prices right now. Early best ball drafts have London pretty high. And I think Drake London's going to be one of the best receivers in the league pretty soon, if he's not already, but he just needs that quarterback. So there's a bit of optimism around this that I don't quite share.
For sure.
For year 1, I should say.
Yeah. I love the Drake London little bit there. I think he's one of the best young receivers in the National Football League. With the right quarterback, he could be propelled to easily a top 10 receiver with due time. My thoughts real quick on this. I mean, they threw the bag at Kirk Cousins extremely. I mean, he was definitely deserving of this money, I feel like, but they're banking on him to bring at least a couple of playoff victories to Atlanta with that sort of money. And like you mentioned, the weapons he's got surrounding him is going to be extraordinary. So it'll be something to watch out for Falcons fans. But I know Stash over here is not liking it as much as a Tampa Bay fan.
Heck no. I don't. I'm hoping they don't do good. But as a Tampa fan, I'm like, no. When they were trying to figure out who their QB was going to be, I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, I have to worry about some people. And Kirk's back there. I'm like, it could be good or bad. Kirk's got a lot of weapons in Atlanta, like Bijan, Kyle Pitts, who could actually maybe get targets finally. I was a big Kyle Pitts guy because he played at Florida, and I'm a big Florida guy. And then he just came to the league and was hardly ever used. Drove me nuts because I'm like, this guy is so good, and he's just being wasted. Bijan, I wasn't sold on, but he did very much impress me last year. I think they're going to be a playoff team. I think they're going to either win the division or get a wild card either one.
For sure. And like you mentioned, so Kirk Cousins does not rely on his legs and mobility a lot. So that's going to be something that Falcons fans can at least be thankful for, because with an Achilles tear, I mean, the age is not on his side, being 35 years old, but he's not an extreme mobile guy. So I think he'll be okay. But it might not be week 1, week 2. It might be like week 6 or 7 where you finally see Minnesota Kirk Cousins come out. But we'll have to wait and see how he progresses from rehab going into the 2024 NFL season. But we'll go ahead and move on. So what division will be the most competitive in the NFL for the upcoming year, in your opinion?
This was a tough one for me, and I kind of wrestled back and forth between the two Norths, AFC North, NFC North, and I ended up going with the AFC North. Baltimore was a Super Bowl favorite last year, just kind of choked up in that playoff game. Pittsburgh, they have to be improved. You got to think the quarterback position was dreadful last year. I don't know how much better it's going to be, but I think it'll still be better somehow. I think Justin Fields will probably be the starter at some point. I think Russ is just about done, but we'll see. You never know. And then Cincinnati back to being a Super Bowl contender with Burrow back, and then the Browns have one of the best rosters on paper, and just got to figure out that quarterback position. But that defense keeps them in games, and that's good enough in the AFC North. So it's always a tough division up there.
Oh, it definitely is. The North is always, for the last few seasons at least, been one of the most competitive divisions in all of football. So what do you think, Stash? What's your opinion?
I'm in agreement. I think the AFC North is just absolutely the toughest division. Not only on offensive side of the ball, but like they have so many good defenses just in that division alone that you have to play against like twice a year. I think that, like you said, Ravens were a Super Bowl favorite last year. I mean, last year I thought the Niners were the best team in football, and they played, and the Ravens smacked them. I thought the Ravens, after that point, was the best team in football, hands down. They just decimated everybody during the regular season. They looked incredible. The defense with Joe Flacco for the Browns last year made the playoffs. I mean, they got torched by the Texans, but they made the playoffs. The Steelers played the Bills. The Steelers were not great, but that defense carried so heavy, and TJ Watt got robbed of a Defensive Player of the Year. And the Bengals are going to have a healthy Joe Burrow. As long as he stays healthy, they're a Super Bowl contender. So, I mean, you have two teams who normally are Super Bowl, like late playoffs, Super Bowl contenders. The Browns are having a come up season. Even with Flacco, they did well. And then you got the Steelers, who, like you said, it's going to be better than Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph. Like, Russ is at least a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I think they do very well. I do think that my biggest issue is the O-line is kind of atrocious, and they need another weapon besides Pickens. So if they can get a good wide receiver in the draft, I think that could fix a lot of their problems.
I'm in full agreement with that. I think all three of us agree the AFC North is the best division in all of football. Like you guys mentioned, I mean, it's going to be an upgrade at the quarterback position with Russell Wilson at helm. Interesting little stat for you. So last year, Russell Wilson had more touchdowns in the air than Pickett did over the last 2 years. So, Steelers fans, you're getting an upgraded quarterback, regardless of what you think about it.
Don't forget.
Do what?
I said, don't forget that, like, Russ the season before on the Broncos was not great. Like, he definitely had a better year the second year, but that first year was atrocious. He didn't even throw more touchdowns. He had bathrooms in his house.
Yeah, he definitely played better this past season than his first year with the Broncos. But going back to the Steelers, I mean, TJ Watt, if you have TJ Watt on your team, I'm jealous because every single season he is a pure game wrecker. That defense is going to be legit and come up for that team in multitude of ways. But the Bengals, Joe Burrow's looking for revenge, everybody. He's looking at Patrick Mahomes and saying, I want a Super Bowl. So he's going to come and he's going to be a force in the AFC every single season if he can remain healthy. That's the big kicker for Cincinnati. Also, we'll have to wait and see if T. Higgins is going to be on the roster in the future or if the Bengals will deal him. That's a big X factor. The Cleveland Browns, I mean, Nick Chubb coming off in a serious injury, the second ACL, I believe, in his career. That's been torn. But that defense with Myles Garrett is legit as well. So we'll have to wait and see. And the Ravens, Super Bowl contending team, they just got better with Derrick Henry, and that defense is stifling. So this team, all of these teams in the AFC North could make the playoffs, hypothetically. They're good enough too. But I'm going to give a little interesting thought real quick before I move on. AFC South, I think, will be one of the most entertaining divisions in the near future. I think Will Levis will finally come out of his shell. Maybe not this year, but year 3, I could see the Titans finally moving up to the playoffs. Anthony Richardson will take a huge year 2 leap. Me and Stash have been huge on him. I think they surround him with weapons. Get Brock Bowers in this year's draft if you're able to. Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, he's got a lot of question marks going into this year, but they've still got a talented roster. And the Houston Texans, they just became one of the favorites to make it out of the AFC with the Stephon Diggs trade and CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, that defense with Daniil Hunter and the rest of those guys. Those guys are cooking. So it's going to be a very entertaining division for those youngsters.
Put some respect on Nico Collins there.
Yeah, yeah. There's too many names to remember. Everybody's a baller in Houston.
That's right. I really like that too. A lot of young quarterbacks in that division, up and coming teams. Finally, that team or that division will be not an afterthought. It's been the worst division in football for years.
Exactly. It's been one of those kind of just brush it off the schedule if you play one of those teams. So we'll finally see what a good AFC South looks like in the future. But moving on to the next topic, everyone. Will Josh Allen be able to thrive this season with key losses to this Buffalo team? What is your thoughts?
I think he can. I think he can with some help in the draft. It's after Dylan Diggs, you know for sure one of those first 2 picks are going to be a wide receiver. Whether or not it's the first round pick or the second, you can pretty much take that to the bank. Because, I mean, who's the wide receiver 1 right now? Khalil Shakir and
Yes, sir.
Dalton Kincaid are their top 2 target getters. So they need some speed on offense. I wasn't a big fan of the Kincaid last year because it didn't help them speed up at all. You know, they're using Gabe Davis as their speed guy on the outside, that's not really his role. He's not a speed guy. So there's a couple of guys that I think would really help Josh Allen go deep. Brian Thomas would be one, Xavier Worthy, breaking the combine record, and Troy Franklin. Those would be my 3 picks of the Bills who I think they would go out and get. Although a lot of these rookie wide receivers to me I'm skeptical with a lot of them actually.
Mm-hmm.
But Josh Allen is Josh Allen.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think he'll be putting up numbers regardless. So I still think he'll be a top 5 quarterback for fantasy considerations.
What's your thoughts on a Stash?
I think the Bills are finished about 8-9 on the year. I think the Jets will be better. I think the Dolphins will still be a strong team on the offense side of the ball, even though their defense hasn't been great. I do think you're right. I think they have to draft a wide receiver in the first 2 picks. They need the help because like Josh Allen is an amazing quarterback, but he can't throw the ball to himself. So
yeah.
I think he needs help. Like I think that just everything that he does on the field, I think is the best QB. His interception ratio is the only thing that's drove me nuts for years. Is he does throw the ball a lot of picks, but he may have to throw the ball himself to get it done. Like
we'll have to wait and see. I'm in agreement with JP here. I think that Josh Allen's gonna be okay. I think he's got that. I think he's got that elite talent to carry an offense. Depending on who they get in the draft, I think they could. Do you guys really think they'll get a route running wide receiver or more of like a physical specimen type like Keoman? Because Lai McConkey is one of the best route runners in this year's class. So,
right, yeah, I would love Ladd to the Bills. I think they just because I'm a lad guy in general, I think a better fit would be a guy that can stretch the field because Kincaid's not really that guy, and Shakir is
Yeah.
not exactly that guy either. So my guess is if Brian Thomas is there, this 6'3",
Yeah,
running a 4.34, I think he'd be the guy they go after.
for sure. But yes, I think Josh Allen, like I was mentioning earlier, I think he'll be all right. I mean, we've seen him put up crazy numbers. Only thing he's got to get down that interception number a little bit. But he's going to be forced to spread the ball out with Diggs leaving Buffalo. I mean, you've got Dawson Knox and Kincaid at the tight end position with James Cook out of the backfield. Let's not sleep on him. He's a very good pass catching back. But only time will tell what Josh Allen will be able to do in Buffalo with the loss of Stephon Diggs. But we'll move ahead to the fantasy football side of things real quick. So, which rookie non-quarterback do you trust the most in this year, upcoming season?
Yes, this one will be a little landing spot dependent for these guys because if Marvin Harrison goes to the Pats at number 3, I can't say it. But if he goes basically anywhere else, he goes to Arizona, I'd lock it in there. Or number 5 to the Chargers. If there's some QB trades in the top, number 3 and 4 QBs go the first 4 picks, and the Chargers somehow land Marvin Harrison, everyone's jumping for joy in LA. And Herbert to Marvin Harrison would be unreal. So outside of the Pats getting Harrison, it's got to be Marvin Harrison, who's about as big of a lock as a prospect as there's been.
100%. I agree with you. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. got to be the easily number 1 option for fantasy football, non-quarterback here for a rookie. It depends on, like you said, situational, depending on the team where he goes. But regardless, he's a physical freak, and I think he's putting up crazy numbers in year 1. But one guy I'll mention real quick, Brock Bowers. I think he goes to the Colts. He could possibly be the best for fantasy this upcoming season because I think Anthony Richardson would look his way a lot. I know they got Pittman Jr., but he could easily be a number 2 target or possibly even number 1 in Indy. But we'll have to wait and see. But those two come to mind right off rip.
I would love Bowers, by the way.
Bro, I really think he's going there. I really do.
Yeah, it'd be a perfect fit. It really would. It would help out a young quarterback. But what's your thoughts on it, Stash? Who's your non-quarterback rookie?
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Marvin Harrison Jr.
If he goes to the Cardinals, Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. are going to be a nasty duo. I could really see it. I think it's going to be great. If he goes to the Chargers with Justin Herbert, even better. Like, I think I am definitely a guy that, like, I am a big fan of Herbert. I think he's really good. I just think the Chargers have not been the best, especially after they lost like the Jags after that like comeback at halftime in the playoffs. Man, yeah, I think that's the easiest pick, and like it just makes the most sense right there. Is Marvin Harrison Jr.
I agree. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. easily the number 1 pick with this topic. So we'll move on real quick. Will Joe Burrow be a top 5 fantasy quarterback this season in your eyes?
I've got Burrow at number 7. I'll give you the quick rundown here.
All right.
At number 1, we've got Anthony Richardson. 2, we got Josh Allen. 3 is Jalen Hurts. 4 is Lamar. 5 is Patrick Mahomes. And 6 is CJ Stroud. So I've got the 4 premier rushing quarterbacks in there because that's such an advantage for these guys. And then I think Mahomes and Stroud will both earn Burrow in terms of passing yards. You got Stroud, elite quarterback, great weapons in a dome. It's just a quick setup. It's going to be an absolute laser show in Houston. So I've got to put him above Burrow.
For sure. I'm in agreement with you. I think Burrow will probably be on the outside of the top 5 looking in. He's probably going to have a really good season comparatively to last year. But like you said, those quarterbacks with rushing ability have so much upside in fantasy. So I don't disagree at all. I'm in agreement that Joe Burrow will for sure be a top 10, most likely fantasy quarterback, but I don't think he'll be top 5.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. Top 10, yes. Top 5, no. because having the ability on your legs to get all those extra yards and stuff, it's going to play so much a factor.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think Burrow's 7 or 8, right around there.
Mhm. I love Anthony Richardson being that high, though. I love the upside.
Yeah, I gotta do it. He's that good. He's that good to me. We haven't seen it yet. He had a short rookie season, but I don't see any reason why he can't be the number one quarterback this year.
MVP Cam Newton, like possibly.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, he's definitely got the intangibles and very similar plays. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm very excited for that Colts team though because they've got a stud in Indy, and if they get Brock Bowers, everybody, I'm telling you, it's gonna be insane.
Mark Bowers is
So
going
we'll
to
have
be
to wait and
such a
see.
good pick.
All right, everybody. Last topic of the day. What is the best pick to have in a 10-team fantasy football league, in your opinion?
I got to go with the number one pick here.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I would always want to have the number one pick, especially in a 10-teamer, which is a little smaller than a 12 or a 14. 10 is relatively standard. I think most people probably play in 10 to 12 man leagues. You want the first pick because you're getting the advantage there. If you played in a bigger league with, say, 14 teams, you might want something near the 14th pick so you can sort of balance out the disparity in talent. But such a shorter pool, you get that first pick. Christian McCaffrey was, a huge advantage compared to the second or third pick last year. And then you go down the snake draft and come back. You're still getting a pretty good player at pick, 20, 21. So I always try to take that advantage where I can get it. And the first pick would be my pick all the time.
I love that, honestly, because you can get the pick of whoever you want from the pool. Honestly, though, for me, years past, I'd always put myself in position. I'm either 4 through 6 for some reason, and it's worked out pretty good for the most part. So I would say pick 6 for me, honestly, is not terrible. So I kind of like that position. You get a solid player, and then round 2, you're getting in front of the number 4 slot and 5. So you get a little leap above them guys. But what do you think would probably be the worst pick in the top 10? You think it'd be like 7 or 8 possibly, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd put it at probably 8 or 9. If you're going to be in the back, I'd want to have the back-to-back so you don't make any guesses about who's going to be there. You just get to double tap that right there. So, yeah, the back and just a couple picks away.
100%. I'm in full agreement with that. I'm getting excited for fantasy football. You got me rolling here, man. So, Stash, what's your opinion? What do you think's the best pick to have?
I have to go number 1 because of my brother last year. He had the number 1 pick. It auto drafts for him. He hardly touched his team, made the playoffs. I was like, no, man.
Yeah.
No. So number 1, easy. I like 5 too, because like especially if it's a 10-man, you know exactly where you're picking. You're kind of getting okay, this is where I'm going every time. But 5 would also suck because like everyone else is getting like 1 and 10 are both getting double picks. So I mean 5 would suck as well.
Yeah. You kind of want that double pick selection. Like 1, you have to wait a little while, but you got back to back after that. And then if you got 9 or 10, it's immediate. So those are always nice to have because you can kind of scout to see which players are available. But I'm definitely looking forward to this year's fantasy football season because there's going to be a lot of stud young players in this year.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of rookies coming in, a lot of rookie wide receivers. Not so much with the running backs.
Yeah.
But the QBs are going to change things up. A lot of new starters out there. So, absolutely, yeah. I'm really excited for the draft to see where these guys land.
100%. Where would you rank Sam Laporta amongst tight ends? Would you put him at tight end 3 possibly? Or even 2?
I would put him at 2. There's not a tight end I want more than Laporta, other than Travis Kelce. And I'm not sure I'd even go there yet. I haven't really thought about that a whole lot recently, but Sam Laporta's my boy. I love that guy.
Oh yeah, he's He showed up crazy numbers last year, and Iowa produces tight ends, everybody. So I don't know why you didn't see it coming.
Yeah, Bills were smoking some crack on that pick, taking Dalton Kincaid over Laporta. I couldn't believe that.
That's ridiculous. They'll be haunted with that pick for years to come.
Yeah, I think so. I think people compared Kincaid to Kelsey in the past draft, and I was having nothing of that. It's going to come back up here too this year because the Bills don't have any weapons, and people are going to go, "This is the big Dalton Kincaid breakout." But the thing that they're forgetting is the massive disparity in talent between these guys.
Exactly. And they'll be reminded of that constantly on social media platforms. But I appreciate you for joining in. NFL with JP, everybody, special guest. And this wraps up our segment. Appreciate it. Much love, everybody.
We out. Woo!